Good evening, greetings and welcome. My name is Terry Roberts-Leonard and I have the honor to serve as the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for Carmel Clay Schools. I am so thankful that you have chosen to spend part of your day with us as we continue our Courageous Conversations series. The Courageous Conversations series aims to inspire dialogue, community engagement, and civic education. Speakers will include scholars, community leaders, and diversity professionals whose scholarship, leadership, and advocacy enhance the school system's efforts to present diverse viewpoints, ideas, and perspectives to inspire greater understanding and appreciation for inclusive excellence. I am honored today to be here engaging in this important conversation with our guest facilitator, Dr. Khalila Shabazz. The title of our event this evening is Black Excellence Lives Here, and our guest presenter truly embodies Black excellence. Khalila Shabazz, PhD, is a cultural competency educator, higher education administrator, and dialogue facilitator. She currently serves as the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Student Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at IUPUI, where she spearheads efforts to promote the success of diverse students by coordinating campus-wide strategic retention and support initiatives. She holds a master's and a PhD in higher education administration from Indiana University and has a 20-year progressive career in higher education administration, teaching, consulting, and education nationwide. Her experience expands beyond the college classroom and administrative realm to the community, where she engages organizations, schools, and businesses in personalized workshops and trainings to enhance cultural competency, diversity, and inclusion efforts. In addition to her professional career, Dr. Shabazz is an active member in leadership with Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, who celebrates their centennial year in 2022. The president and founder of SAS, the Student African American Sisterhood, a national nonprofit organization. She's a regular volunteer in the Indianapolis community and the co-pilot of a blended family with 8 daughters and a grandson, Brave, who is adorable, by the way. She enjoys reading, cooking, shopping, and family time. If you have questions during the event, feel free to utilize the chat feature as well as the Q&A feature, and I will work with Dr. Shabazz to ensure that she sees those and answers as many questions as possible. I will now turn it over to Dr. Shabazz.
Good evening, everyone. I am so glad to have you all here joining us for a courageous conversation. The topic again is on Black excellence, and I am delighted to be able to be part of the conversation. First, I want to thank Terry for the invitation and Carmel Clay Schools for welcoming me and having me on. And I would also like to just take a moment to acknowledge that my thoughts and prayers are with the Ukrainian families who are suffering such an atrocity as they are with Russia today. So that is on my heart. So I want to make sure to acknowledge that. So I'm going to share my screen so we can dive right on in. Okay. So again, we are talking about Black excellence and the fact that it lives here, reflecting on and anticipating the contributions of Indiana Black Americans. And so to kick us off, it's always appropriate in my mind that we give acknowledgement to those individuals, the Native peoples who were on this land prior to us. And so I want to begin by acknowledging that we are on the traditional homelands of Native people, the Miami, the Potawatomi, the Shawnee, and all others who called Indiana home at one point. And so we pay our respect to them for allowing us the opportunity to inhabit their land. So what we're going to do today, we're going to do a couple of things. One, we're going to talk about defining Black excellence, and you'll have an opportunity here in a moment in the chat to do that. I am going to do a brief history about Blacks right here in Indiana, and then we're going to round out with, what is what is Indiana's Black excellence of the past, present, and our future. So take a quick moment, type a word, type a couple of word statement. What is Black excellence to you? If you don't know me, many of you, but I am a facilitator who likes participation. And so it will be all throughout this workshop is what I call it, a workshop, not necessarily a presentation. So just take a quick moment, write out a word or a phrase. What is Black excellence? Thank you. I see achievement, it's innovation, it's creativity. Absolutely. Anybody else? What's Black excellence? Strength, resilience. Awesome. Inspiration, embracing culture and legacy. Absolutely. One of the most important things about excellence or Black excellence and putting those words together is the fact that there's not one definition. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I have a quick video that I want to share with you that asks these individuals that same question. Let's hear how they respond.
What does Black excellence mean to me? It is
Black excellence means,
To be honest with you, I've been having a hard time answering this question.
to me, Black excellence is being unapologetically Black.
it's who we are.
It means pushing through so many of the obstacles that we often face.
It means making the ancestors proud.
And motivates and encourages others that are watching. Setting a standard is becoming representation.
To me, Black excellence is just our authenticity. It is our living.
Moments of Black excellence in the last year. It's really hard to cherry pick one moment. Black people mobilized in 2020. We were out.
Kamala Harris is certainly an example of that.
Kamala Harris is everything I would like to be, including good looking in a power suit.
Just seeing someone that looks like me in that position lets me know that all things are possible and there are no glass ceilings.
Naomi Osaka and her activism during the US Open.
Michelle Obama and Stacey Abrams and what she was able to accomplish, not just in Georgia, but really in the nation with this election.
There's not enough words that could be said about Cicely Tyson. That loss was profound.
Amanda Gorman.
Watching Amanda Gorman up there reading her poems during all this stuff that's going on in the world and having poise and confidence, that's Black excellence.
Let's shout out the women's Rumble winner, Bianca Belair, who is a sister. She is awesome, awesome.
We're not going to let these conversations just get swept under the rug and die. And I think that's also part of Black excellence. We can stand together like no other.
All right. Yes, Terry. If you know anything about Terry, she likes WWE. So thought you would love that. So yes, even, some of those individuals had trouble defining Black excellence, but for the purpose of our conversation today, I kind of pulled and just researched some general definitions. So the Black Excellence Network defined it as the prosperity and positive accomplishments of people in the Black community. Other people have used words such as it represents progress, or representation, empowerment, inspiration, success, and unity to describe what Black excellence is. The term can refer to high level of achievement, success, or ability demonstrated by an individual Black person or by Black people in general. And my favorite is that the term is used to refer to an aspiration or a goal to be achieved. It is a mindset used in the pursuit of such success described above. And so think about those as the definitions to carry you through for this next part of this workshop. So I wanted to start with a little history about Blacks in Indiana, because it's so important to reflect on our past. And first and foremost, Black lives and Black people have been a part of the Indiana community prior to Indiana even becoming a state. So we achieved statehood in 1816, but in a French settlement report back in 1746, it actually included 5 Black individuals. Now they were slaves, but they lived with Frenchmen along the Wabash River in Vincennes. And so that is the earliest record of Black folks in Indiana. Moving on, know that most Indiana Black families, they came from either North Carolina, Virginia, or Kentucky. Those were the three largest states where Blacks came from. Most of them came as freemen. They were free individuals who were just seeking opportunities to not have racial restrictions that were happening in the lower southern states. And then there were some who were fleeing slavery. And then there were also Black families who had, come as slaves to Indiana and then subsequently were freed here. But during that time, over 30 Black farm communities were established right here in our state. And agriculture was the main occupation of Black families of that time. And then one super interesting fact that I'm not sure if a lot of people, I know that I realized this while doing the research for even this project, is that one prominent, very prominent settlement was the Roberts settlement, which is in northern, right here, or right there, in northern Hamilton County. And it was established in 1835 from some Black families who came from North Carolina. And that community was thought of or seen or, was a very thriving, prosperous agricultural community. And so I want to read just a little snippet of their history. It says 30 miles north of Indianapolis, just to the east of US 31, sits the remains of an African-American pioneer farm settlement. So that is the church that you are seeing on the screen. It was founded in 1835 by free Blacks of mixed racial heritage who migrated mostly from North Carolina and Virginia to escape deteriorating racial conditions of the South. The majority of the pioneers had the Roberts surname, but other families such as the Waldens, Winburns, Rices, and Gilliams also made this migration over a period of 20 to 30 years in the mid-1800s. Their goals were the pursuit of economic, educational, and religious aspirations with greater freedom and fewer racial barriers. These goals were achieved through considerable hard work and the assistance of white neighbors of the Quaker and Wesleyan faiths who lived in the surrounding area. This community, the Roberts Settlement community, annually celebrates the homecoming or celebrates that settlement every year. And so the 99th homecoming of the Roberts Settlement will be celebrated this July 1st through the 3rd. So I thought that was really an interesting piece of history about Indiana and certainly, connected to our conversation tonight with Hamilton County. So moving on in terms of Blacks in Indiana, by 1860, there were, a lot more Black settlements. And then most recently, as of the 2020 census, Black individuals represent nearly 10% of Indiana's entire population. So I want to play a game. So you all are going to hopefully participate. So hopefully you have are familiar with Kahoot. If not, it's super simple. I'm going to stop my share really quickly so that you have the screen needed to be able to go directly to Kahoot. In the meantime, you can pull up kahoot.com and I'm going to reshare. Okay, so you are going to join by, it's going to load this game pin here in just a second. So if you have your cell devices, you can just use the QR code and scan it. If you go to kahoot.com or in Kahoot, the app, it will allow you to key in the game pin. And you're going to add yourself to it and put your initials or your name. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'll give you about another minute and a half so you can join in. This is just a friendly game. There's no competition. You get bragging rights on these Indiana Black excellence facts. So come on in, don't be shy. This is to learn. I'm gonna wait another minute or so because we have about 28 people who are in the room. So I want you all to have an opportunity to log in and participate. If you've never done it before, it's pretty easy. Thank you. All right, so we got 15 people. Anyone else joining us? No, just gonna have some spectators? Okay. All right, so I will go ahead and dive on in. If you do need this information, Terry, would you mind throwing the game pin in the chat for me, please? In case someone wants to, I don't know if they can join after we start, but we'll see. All right, so let's go ahead and get started on some Indiana Black Excellence facts. And you just answer the question according to the color-coded response. So here's your first question. Indianapolis Velodrome is named after this award-winning cyclist. So go ahead, throw in your number. You got 10 seconds now that you got to be quick. So you got to be quick. So that one we should have let it be a test. But so the Indianapolis Velodrome is named after Marshall Major Taylor. Okay, we got a scoreboard here. So James got it at the top, and it also goes off of your speed too. So whoever got it at the top. So here's a little bit about Mr. Major Taylor. So he was born in Indianapolis, Indiana, and he actually started out, so he's the first African-American cyclist who was a world champion. So born and raised right here in our city and was an amazing athlete. All right, you all ready for the next one? So be ready with your fingers. All right, so question 2, 10 seconds. First African-American woman to represent Indiana in the U.S. House of Representatives. All right, yes, Katie Hall. And unfortunately, everyone often gets this mixed up. So it's not Julia Carson, it's actually Katie Hall. And let's see, we have anybody get that right? We have somebody moving up on the board. So Katie Beatrice Hall, who lived in Gary, Indiana, went to IU. And so she is the first woman to represent Indiana in the U.S. House of Representatives. Julia Carson often gets confused because she was the first Black woman to represent Indianapolis in Congress. And so Katie Beatrice Hall came before Julia Carson. And one of the really, really cool facts about Ms. Hall is that she served as the chairwoman of the Subcommittee on Census and Population, which was responsible for holidays. And under her leadership, it was central for her to advocate for and ultimately secured the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday celebration that we all experience and enjoy today. So that was due in part from the advocacy of Katie Hall. All right, so next up. So question 3, this Indianapolis Black church played a key role in the Underground Railroad and assisted many families fleeing slavery. All right, so looks like a lot of people got that right. Yes, Bethel AME Church. So let's see who's moving up. Okay, Don W., we see you coming up. So Bethel AME Church most certainly played a pivotal role in the Underground Railroad movement to assist families who were fleeing slavery. It was organized in 1836 by a man named Augustus Turner, and William Paul Quinn, who was one of the founders of the AME Church, served as one of its first leaders. It was in the heart of the Black community, which is right next to now the IUPUI campus. Matter of fact, the tall tower you see in the photo still stands, but the remainder of the church has been demolished and has been replaced by a hotel. That piece stands because it's actually a piece of Indiana history. It's one of our it's a historical site for the city. And fun fact, this is the church that I actually grew up in as a child. The church did relocate. It's located now in Pike Township off of Zionsville Road. All right, next question. See who's gonna get it. This Black race car driver joined the Colored Speedway Association, won several races during his racing career. Okay, a lot of stuff. So a lot of people thought it was Willie Ribbs, and other folks knew that it was Charlie Wiggins. So that is who it was. Okay, so James, you came up, you knew that pretty quickly. So yes, this is Charlie Wiggins. He was born in Indianapolis, Indiana. And because of segregation, he could not race in the Indianapolis 500. And so he did race in the CSA and won the CSA. Ultimately, he started his career actually as a mechanic and became a racer when he was allowed to. But because of segregation and because Black individuals weren't allowed in the Indianapolis Speedway or 500, he worked for Cummings, but he acted as a janitor, even though he was actually their mechanic. And so after he became injured, he went on to train many other Black racers, as well as train other mechanics. So cool fact about a Black racer. So true or false? Megastar musician Michael Jackson was born in Fort Wayne, Indiana. This might be that chance to get yourself up. Oh, so a couple people thought that he was. So no, Michael Jackson was actually born in Gary, Indiana. So he and his family, they're from Gary. That house still stands. And then many family members of course, the Jackson family went on to become stars due to their success of the Jackson 5. All right, a few more questions. This entrepreneur with Indiana ties became the first self-made millionaire in America. All right, okay. So many of you got it right. Okay, Felicia, you're keeping up at that spot. You and James are neck and neck. So yes, Madam C.J. Walker, she is a hairdresser, or was a hairdresser turned entrepreneur of hair care products. Her factory was in Indianapolis, so she wasn't born here, but she actually built the majority of her business right here in Indianapolis on Indiana Avenue. Many people are aware that Indiana Avenue was considered the Harlem of the Midwest. And so having a business down there was right amidst, you have Bethel AME Church across the street, and you have the Madam Walker building that still stands today. And in fact, the theater was recently renovated in partnership with her granddaughters, Blessing and Eli Lilly and Ayu, who worked to renovate it. It has now been reopened. It's beautiful, it's amazing, and they have relaunched a lot of their programming for the city. All right, next question. Founded in 1922, this sorority is the only Black Greek sorority founded at a predominantly white college. All right, so the answer is Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. It was founded in 1922 by 7 educators on the campus of Butler University. And what's so significant about the founding of Sigma Gamma Rho being a Black Greek organization was that it was the only collegiate sorority founded on a predominantly white institution. And in the 1920s, the Indianapolis KKK was, the movement was very much thriving. And so they were bold enough to still come together and develop an organization originally for teachers, but expanded to anyone who was committed to scholarship, sisterhood, and service. And the sorority is preparing to celebrate 100 years as an organization. So if you will be in Indianapolis, Indiana, anytime mid-July, you are sure to see an overwhelming number of blue and gold because there is such pride in the organization. Next question. Since 1977, this Black-led organization cultivates excellence in Black youth in Indiana. All right, so now the trick to this question is in fact that there's a couple other organizations that most certainly do help to support Black youth. But the correct answer was the Center for Leadership Development. It has been here since 1977, and they were established really to focus on character, empowering youth, and enriching the community, which they do a great job. They have a variety of programs and services available to Black youth in Indiana. Okay, I think we have maybe one more or two more maybe. This Ben Davis and Butler University graduate is the only African-American to own, operate, and manage a big TV station. Oh, okay. So maybe some guesses there, not as strong, but some people may have known. So the correct answer is DeJuan McCoy. And Felicia looks like she came out on top again. So this is DeJuan. He's born and raised right here in Indianapolis, Indiana. He is the owner of Wish TV Channel 8 right here. It's the only locally owned TV station in our state. And so he also represents the only Black person to own, operate, and manage every aspect of a Big Four affiliate. So a great accomplishment. All right, so our very last question. Everybody should be able to get a point, I hope. I can name and explain the contributions of someone exhibiting Black excellence in Indiana. All right, thank you. So yes, Black excellence is everywhere in Indiana. So I do hope that you indeed can name. So let's see who came out on top. So we have Don W. in third, James in second, and Felicia. So those are our winners. I hope you enjoyed my take on history or Black excellence right here in Indiana. So quick commercial break while I pause this and go back to my presentation. So if you learned something, tell me what you learned in the chat. You got something. What was an answer that maybe you didn't get right that you got right, or you got wrong, but you realized that you learned something now? Anybody learn anything from the Kahoot? Oh, okay. All right. You didn't know about Mr. McCoy. Yeah, yep. Great. Great. So glad you learned a little bit more about Black excellence, right? Oh, someone says that I didn't know enough. Yeah, lots of information. And that's one of the really cool things about history and being able to research, because you have the opportunity to learn so much. You know, these are just these are just a few examples of what is represented and what comes from right here in our city. And so next I want to transition to sort of what can we do to really amplify Black excellence? And I want to talk about 4 ways that I believe, we all can reflect on and anticipate Black excellence. And that first one is really taking the time to, use discovery to your advantage, discover Black excellence. And what I mean by that is really taking the time. We have an amazing city, and there's so many places that you can go to learn a little bit more. And so, whether you're taking a Black history tour of Indiana, whether you're, exploring what's going on with the Madam C.J. Walker and the cultural trails, or the State Museum, the Crispus Attucks Museum. There are just so many places of discovery that really do amplify Black excellence. Second, reading. Reading is my thing. You see books all around me. And I think that is one excellent way to center, the experiences of Black individuals, is by expanding what you understand. And so sometimes it's, reading material that, might be inconsistent with what you think needs to be read. But, it will open your eyes. Reading to me was one of the gateways to me understanding that the world was bigger than my own little world that I had right here in Indiana. And one of the texts that I recently found, even in preparation for this, is a brand new text called African Americans in Indianapolis. And this was an amazing text just to learn about some of the people that I featured, but many, many, many more. And so certainly reading is an opportunity. Next is to listen, listen to the experiences of Black families, Black individuals. There are, individuals in your community, there are podcasts, there's so many opportunities to really engage yourself in content that will challenge your own beliefs, will help you expand what you believe and know. But sometimes we don't listen to hear, we just listen and to respond, but not really to take information. And then lastly, to learn, to really think about how can you expand your faculties and make sure that the information that you're taking in, you are digesting, not taking it in to refute it, but really taking it in to learn something. Because when you know more, and my grandmother used to say, when you know better, you're supposed to do better. And so, learning is one of the largest tools to really allow us an opportunity to reflect on and anticipate Black excellence. So I mentioned that there's so much right here in our own city. And I thought that this quick little video does a great job of talking about Black culture in Indy today. So I'm gonna let you watch this really quick video. So again, an example of just how, we have a smaller but mighty city, and there are places and spaces that really do amplify Black excellence. And, I encourage you, if you know other places that maybe weren't represented in the video or that I said, to share that in the chat so that, maybe someone can go and discover and experience. I know a new gym that I found recently, and I cannot recall the name of it, so someone may have to help me. Oh, it may be Emoja. It's the new Black bookstore that's within the Flanner House. So again, I love books, but they have artifacts. They have so many different pieces, and I just loved going in there, picking up little gift items. And that actually is right across the street from Ujama. Ujama? Yeah, I think so. Thank you, Kathy. That is right there across from the Center for Leadership Development on Martin Luther King. But it's a great little bookstore, locally owned and run, and really, really does, embrace all of us, and it's welcome to anyone to come in. So love that little spot. Just to sort of round out before we open it up for see if anybody have any questions, I want to talk about, this idea of bringing together the excellence of the past, present, and the future. And one of the things that I think is so important when we think about Black excellence is that it must be cultivated. We have an obligation to our young people to make sure that they know and can see the best in themselves. I feel like some adults, Black adults have been robbed of the experience of being empowered. And so I really believe that, Black excellence thrives because there are people who are pouring into the lives of our young people and making sure that they know, regardless of your circumstances, regardless of your current situation, you can be excellent. You are excellent. And so we have to cultivate that. We have to cultivate that through the education that we provide to them, through the ways in which we encourage them, the way that we talk to them, the way that we include them in decision making and experiences. Black excellence has to be cultivated. Another thing that I believe is really important is that Black excellence has to be acknowledged. For many, many, many years, Black excellence has not been centered, and often it resides on the sidelines of excellence that's promoted and we see every day in our lives. But Black excellence really has to be something that all people acknowledge. So non-Black individuals acknowledging that Black excellence is everywhere and in everyone, and Black individuals acknowledging that Black excellence exists amongst us. And additionally, it must be shared. It's not something that we should keep secret. I feel oftentimes that, Black individuals, kind of hold themselves in, hold their excellence all to themselves, or don't share their talents with each other and with the world, because in many cases, they may be shamed. It's not recognized or acknowledged. And so we don't share anything about, the successes of people in our community. And, it's so important that we stop doing that. We stop not sharing, and that we, use platforms to be able to promote and to highlight all accomplishments. There's not an accomplishment too big or too small. And then lastly, I think that, Black excellence has to be normalized. There's a quote that talks about an author, Janice Gassam, who writes about Black exceptionalism. And she talks about how it's the notion, or she defines it as such, it's the notion that Black people who are educated, smart, articulate, poised, and basically every other positive adjective that you can think of, that they are atypical, or they're a rarity among the general population. And that is an absolute falsehood, right? So Black excellence is not a rarity. It's not a rarity that there is, the only one or the first one. While that might be the first one, it doesn't necessarily have to reflect and be the only one. There are many other people who exhibit and exude Black excellence. And so we have to normalize it. We have to talk about it like that people are not anomalies. Well, that just happens to be them. They're just super smart. That's not the case. So we have to move away from that mentality. And I also say to my Black individuals and sisters and brothers that we have to occupy a space of excellence. And not be intimidated to do that and to, show our true and full selves and bring our true and full selves and all of the excellence. And don't feel the need to shrink our abilities, shrink our capabilities, things that we know that we can do, not to shrink those things just to be accepted. And that's to be accepted by anyone, whether it's a Black person or not Black person, but not to shrink ourselves because of acceptance. And then lastly, it's just as important for non-Black individuals to use whatever platform that they have and to use their power within that platform to amplify and promote Black excellence. Black excellence, like I mentioned before, is right here in our state. It was, to me, reflective in every single person and everybody. And so it's just a matter of how we do these 4 things: cultivate Black excellence, acknowledge it, share it, and normalize it. So in closing, I have this poem that I found that I thought was that spoke right to what this conversation is, and it's Excellence by Ryson de Souza. It says, excellence is nature because it has day and night. Excellence is accepting something wrong and something right. Excellence is your own. It's in your mind. It's within you, where excellence you find. Excellence is a mother that nurtures you. Excellence is a whole and never few. For some, excellence is old, and for some, it's new. The one-word definition for excellence is you. So with that, I'm going to pause and see, are there any questions? I'm going to check the chat. Any questions or comments? I don't think that we have the ability to do audio. I'm not sure, Terry, if you can help me with that. But if not, I would love to hear back from you. What were some of your takeaways? What questions might you have?
You can utilize the chat. You can utilize the Q&A feature. And I think if you raise your hand, I think I can unmute you in some way. Well, I have a question. What are some suggestions that you have for What are some suggestions that you have for trying to teach our young people why it's important to amplify voices and to reach for excellence and to kind of feature that success? So how do we talk to our young people about it?
Yeah, great question, Terry. So one is just to have the conversation. I think a lot of times people just don't talk. They think our young people know, or because we know, we think that, for some reason there's this transfer of information. But I think affirmations are super important. And so helping young people really understand how they can be affirmed in their identities, telling them about themselves, telling them about young people. Some of the examples I've seen most recently recently on like TikTok and other places on social media is, you know, kindergarten projects where it's centered around their identity. And so you have, you know, little girls playing Mae Jemison, or, you know, all of those types of ideas and activities really promote and encourage them seeing themselves. I, again, really strongly encourage diverse readings, reading materials. You know, all children need to be exposed to texts that are about and by other people. You need to be able to open a book and see multiple cultures represented. And so I think, you know, those are two things, you know, as a raiser of children, making sure that, or as a influencer too with children, making sure that you are sharing and using stories of, you know, that are diverse, as well as reading materials.
Okay, I think I gave Leanna Giles ability to speak. Can you try, Leanna? I think you have yourself muted.
You're right, I did. I love technology. I was just going to offer a resource that you may have mentioned because I joined a few minutes late. If anybody is looking for a resource downtown that goes through Black Harlem, as you mentioned earlier, a young man by the name of Samson Livingston does cultural walks downtown, and he is incredible. He is a historian. He loves Indiana. He'll customize the walk, but he does an amazing job.
Yes. Yeah, great resource. I could not remember his last name, but yes, Samson Livingston, I think you said. And yes, his tours are great. He also does one on Irvington as well, because
yes,
many folks don't know that DC Stevenson was the grand dragon of the KKK in Indianapolis, Indiana, and that was in the Irvington area, which is where the original Butler campus was. And so the house still stands. And so he actually does tours over there as well, in addition to the Black History tours that he does along Indiana Avenue. So highly promote that.
You have a question in the chat that says, are there any movies or books you'd recommend children and or adults watch as a way to start a conversation?
Oh my goodness. Everything. So literally everything. I it's hard to name just one, but Terry, how about I can send you a list and you can send out a book read, because I don't want to like say one and then I'm gonna like go down a rabbit hole. So I really believe someone put the resource about the Center for Black Literature and Culture. That's one of my favorite resources, particularly now, because a lot of the books that you can check out on the library, I do on my Kindle. And so they have, you know, children's literature that really will you know, help them have a greater understanding, as well as, you know, wherever you are in your cultural competency walk or journey, you're able to find things there. But from a movies perspective, oof, oh my goodness. So like my favorite movie, which I know people, you know, it just differs in how people perceive it, but my absolute favorite movie is The Color Purple. I think there's so many lessons in that movie. And I've watched it probably, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of times, but that is certainly, you know, the first one that comes to my mind. But I will be glad to share. You can send me an email as a follow-up question, and I will, you know, shoot you a copy of my home personal library.
In the chat, we have a question that says, what approaches would you recommend for encouraging teachers at PWIs to recognize the importance or significance of infusing Black history? The history of other people of color and other marginalized groups into the curriculum?
Yeah, this is a great question. We actually are taking multiple approaches, or even on the IUPUI campus. And I can summarize it with an approach that I take with faculty at the collegiate level. And it's centered around an acronym called AIM for diversity. And so culturally relevant and inclusive pedagogy is so important. And if you want, I'm happy. I have an entire syllabus. So I teach pre-service teachers. Every Tuesday morning, I go to an IPS school and I teach a group of young people who are aspiring teachers. And I teach them the Education in American Culture course. And it's all about understanding the history of the system of education. It also explores early challenges and issues for diverse populations. It talks about some of the laws. Then we move into the realities of the education system, such as the school to prison pipeline, culturally relevant teaching strategies and tools, classroom management, all of these sorts of things. And to me, that's really a first step, because it's not simply about the recognition of Black history. It's really reframing of how you approach your curriculum in the first place. And so it starts with the individual, and then it really translates into practice. And so that is one of, some strategies. So I have text for that too. And I have literally like a whole syllabus that I'd be happy to share some resources about, and articles that really stimulate that conversation around getting teachers to really understand the importance of history. And Black history is what we're focusing on now. And I wouldn't be a DEI person if I said that other histories are significant too, and must be taught and centered in the curriculum. Any other? Yes, someone put the Crispus Attucks Museum. I talked a little bit about there earlier. Great resource. They actually were featured on the news this morning, I believe, and so was Samson.
Any other questions for our guest? It's your last chance. Well, I just want to tell Dr. Shabazz, thank you very, very much. I learned a lot. I'm sure everyone learned a lot about Black excellence and the, very interesting history of Indiana and Indianapolis and even Hamilton County. That was a really good gem of knowledge to have. This presentation was recorded and it will be available on our website in probably about a week or so. So anybody who missed it, and you can just pass it on to them so we can continue to share the knowledge and information. Again, on behalf of Carmel Clay Schools, we appreciate you, Dr. Shabazz. We also appreciate everybody for being in attendance tonight. Our next Courageous Conversations event is on March the 24th, and it is Dr. Ebony Griggs Griffin, and that is centered around Women's History Month. So I'm excited for that. And we actually even have Dr. Griffin tuning in tonight. She is on our webinar tonight. So that is great support. We appreciate that. And we look forward to that next month. Thank you all and have a great evening.